Hey, this is HansPerm. Welcome to my stream. And today let's have a tutorial in solving 3 by 3 blindfolded, right? So this time I just recently learned uh, the method of Pochmann, the Old Pochmann, and yeah, it's kind of a frustration if I'm not successfully solving a 3 by 3 blindfolded, but yeah, I did at least three successful solve already with the best time of 8 minutes and 13 seconds. And just recently, I just had a couple of 11, and the other one is about 12 minutes. But not bad uh, for a newbie like me, right? Because I'm just fascinated on how to solve Old Parchment method. So how I started, though, of course, I just learned come across some website and uh, read some article about the Old Pochmann, and I just followed that one though, and after some time I have watched some sample solve of a 3 by 3 blindfolded. So to begin with, solving a 3 by 3 blindfolded using Old Pochmann method is we have to have these notations in our queue. So I just add this um, labeled on my 3 by 3 queue, and particularly you might notice that there are some double letters there because the first would be assigned for the edges, right, and the other letters will be assigned for the corners. So let's begin with the notation on the edges by labeling from I'm faced, by the way, I'm facing yellow on top and orange in front. So you can do any orientation as long as that the labeling should be fixed though. Once that we're beginning to solve a Parchment method. So edges, from the edges, we can label it like this. What I have done it like A, B, C, D. From the top layer, front layer is E, F, G, H, and moving on to the right, I, J, K, L, and to the back, M, N, O, P, and to the left side is Q, R, S, T, and from the bottom is U, V, W, X. So this is the notation for edges, right? And you'll be on reaching until X only. And for the corners, I label it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, and U, V, W, X. So that would be for the corners. So basically we have only 8 corners, right? So on the edges we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we do have 12 edges in a 3 by 3 Rubik's Cube. Alright, so beginning with the Pochmann method. After labeling the notation, we could start working on either on edges or either first on the corners. But I started learning first the edges, and from the top face, is the most important thing in Parchment method is the location of the buffer, which is in the B, and the swapping would be here in the D. So which means this would be um, our setup moves later. We will learn those different setup moves, particularly in edges and corners. And by just barely moving wide L, wide D, or D, or D prime, double D, and without, of course, without moving it from the side of our buffer, which is the B. And then we're bringing our piece over here on the swapping position, and you can see that we have to perform some algorithms on working on the edges, particularly in T permutation, and then we have to revert back the setup moves that we have done it so that it will put in place. So to give you some demonstration, in edges we use only for a beginner, for typical beginners or start off of learning Parchment method, particularly in solving the edges, is basically it uses a T-perm. But there are some notations also they have used JA perm and JB perm or permutations, which I do mix up with that one, particularly on the edge of K and the edge of S, which I will show it to you later. Right. If I will perform a typical T-perm, you will see that that this D is supposed to be swapped over this edge of this location. Actually, this is B, and this is D, and these two should be swapped. So you can see that even this I should be also be placed here, and then this few should be placed there on the position. So if we are performing a typical T-perm, so these two will going to be swapped, and of course the two corners will be also be swapped. So that's the property of a T-perm. Right, there you go. Later in the algorithm using edges, I mean using corners, now this time the position of our buffer will be in A, and the swapping will be somewhere in this piece, this GLV, right? But we'll not be going to use the Y perm, the T perm, but we're going to use a modified Y perm. What I mean to say Y modified, Y permutation, instead of performing the F, we'll not be using that one, and along with the F prime. So a typical Y perm, right? We perform the first is by moving our F, right? So F, I believe let me see if I could still mention the alg that is for Y permutations. F R U prime R prime. Let's F R U prime R prime U prime R U R prime F prime R U R prime U prime R prime F R F prime. So, but in Parchment method, in solving for the corners, we don't use the F and the F prime. So, which means we'll start off with the RU prime. So it will be look like this. So since the corners will be positioned, the buffer will be on A and will be here in L for our swapping. So I'll show you the modified Y perm by solving the corners. Right. So I didn't perform the F and F prime, and you can see that this this buffer position, this L, which is pointing here, it's L, right? Sticker L. but this is A, but this will goes there to this position, which is the L, right? I, J, K, L. So which means performing modified Y-perm permutation in the corners will swap this two piece, particularly on this sticker, right? So because this is the buffer, and it will goes to this one. So if I perform the Y-perm, then they will swap, right? So which means whenever we are now starting off with the corners, um, majority of the moves are of course from R and R prime, D. You can use also F prime and F2. What else? So we can also work on other than that one, of course, with this one, of course, we are avoiding to disrupt this part of this buffer, right? So which means when it comes to setup moves, we have at least about from of course from A to X, but not all the setup moves from each one of those letters notations will be having. Say for example, for the edges, we don't have setup moves when it comes to B because this is the buffer, and we don't have also setup moves from I because this is one piece, B and I, right? So which means for this solving of the edges, the rest of the notation from A to X of edges, there will be a setup move except only for the B and I because this is the buffer. Similarly, when it comes to your corners, since our buffer will be the A, right? The buffer will be A, so which means there will be no setup moves for the corner in A. Not only in A, including the N and including the Q because it's only one piece, right? The question is, what about the swapping position? There will be a setup move for this L, G, and B. Similarly, when it comes to your edges, the swapping position of the edge is this D. So which means there will be also a setup move for D and along with the Q. Alright. So we'll go on to each one of those setup moves to give you some demonstration before we complete maybe one walkthrough solve of a pre-blindfolded, and we'll just to take notes those letters that we will be assigning, because the most crucial part there is of course once that is blindfolded, which means you have to take note of those notations whenever you are solving all the edges and along with the corners. But we have also some rules to follow, because since we are solving edges, and if there will be a odd number or even, it should be both even, I mean to say it should have an even number of edges notations, and it should come with an odd even numbers also with the corners. So which means once that you have that one, you don't have a parity. Alright, so that parity will fix two edges here, and that parity uses a typical RA perm, so which I will demonstrate it to you later. But that parity will only be applicable for odd. Suppose that you have set all your notations of your edges and you come across with odd number for your edges, and automatically the corners should be also be add also. In case you uh, mismatch that one, meaning it's something wrong maybe somewhere in your edges or in your corner, so it should come the same. So if once that you have an add edges, notations, and corners, definitely we will going to perform in the middle is the RA perm. So right, now let's work on the setup moves, and later we will learn how this cycle of movements and how we take note that particular notations, right? So moving on to the edges. So in the edges, just like I said, we don't have a setup move in B and in I because this is a buffer. So the setup moves, let's start with letter A. Setup moves of A. So I'll be doing this one intuitively only, alright? Probably will not be performing the JB and JA pump. We'll be only working with P pump and the modified Y pump. Right, for the setup move of A, right, for setup move of A, and I'm sorry, this A edge is LW2 D prime LW2, and then we will perform a T perm, right, and then we have to revert back our setup move, which is LW2. Instead of D prime, it will be a D and LW2. So you can see that this one is a buffer, which is it's there in the buffer, right? So which means it should come here in this piece because this is um, a yellow red sticker. So which means A here and then the red here over here. So which means once that you have seen this kind of um, approach in edge, and then our buffer is filling the sticker, which means it should go somewhere in the pieces. And for this time we perform the setup move of A, so this one should be here. So now let's perform setup move L2W D prime L2W and T prime, right, and then revert back L2W D L LW2, I'm sorry, LW2, and there you go. So that would be for the setup move of A. For B, so we don't have it. What about for C? In the C, to bring it over here, right, so we have to perform a setup move of LW2 and D. C is already there, and but it's not yet completed without performing this on the top because this is our swapping area. I can perform an L2 or LW2, right, there you go. C is already there. So this time I will perform the T perm, right, revert back. You have to reverse that setup move, that is LW2. Instead of D, I'll performing D prime and LW2. So now you can see that this piece in the buffer, particularly here in our edge, should come on this sticker, right? So because this is a yellow and orange, so yellow and orange will be there, which is E, right? So by the way, so don't point on the wrong sticker because the buffer should face on the top, right? So which means it should goes here. So which is yellow should goes here, right? Anyhow, if we put this one correctly, right, the partner of that color will be also be correct. So we'll perform this one once that this piece is in the buffer, and then we'll bring it over this one because this is supposed to be C, right? Because A, B, C, which is a yellow and orange. So we will perform once again our setup moves. So LW2, D, and LW2, right? A T perm, LW2, revert back, D prime, LW2, and now it's solved, right? So that would be for the edge of C. Okay, next for the D. For the D, this is quite easy because you don't need to do a setup move because it's already there in the swapping position. So which means there's no setup move, but there will be, of course, an algorithm which is a T-perm. So no setup moves, which means we have only to perform a T-perm just like what I have shown you previously. that this piece now it's in the buffer, so it should come over this D, and automatically, of course, this screen will be facing on this sticker, right? So no setup move, only perform a T-perm, and it will be fixed, right? Now for E, right? For E, by the way, for other notation, maybe the E will be here. So as long as that you have made that notation, you have to follow this strictly the same labeling, of course, and strictly the same setup moves, right? So for my case, I have yellow on top and orange in front. Right, now moving on to E. So E, setup move of this one, how to bring it over here, right? So that we could bring up here all the way to our swapping position. So in E, so we use a D wide to D wide, uh, L wide LW, right? And then D prime, so that this E will be there at the bottom. And we're not yet finished. We need to bring it up by using L2. So this time now, the E is on the swapping position. So now I can perform a T-perm, and after performing a T-perm, we have to revert back our setup moves. So remember, the E, we perform L wide, D prime, and L2. So I have to begin with L2. Instead of D prime, it will become D, and then instead of LW, it will become LW prime. So now you can see that in the buffer, it's an orange sticker along with the yellow. So which means from the notation, it should goes here in our front, which is the orange, right, in the edges, which is letter E. Automatically, of course, this C will be fixed as well, right? So this is for the E setup move, and let's perform this one for the E setup move again. LW, D prime, L2, T perm, L2, D, and LWY prime, and that is fixed. Now, next, moving on to letter F. Okay, this is F. It's already erased. But E, F, G, H. So basically, actually, before I start working on the setup moves, first I did memorize all the notations here. So this is pretty much handful if you have a budget few, and then no worries if you want to write a permanent pen for that one, for just for the reason of learning a Pochmann or three blindfolding. Right, so now moving on to F. So F, how can we bring it there in our swapping position? So this is quite easy. We can just bring it over here by performing a DW2, right? And of course, we have to bring this F up here in our swapping position by performing L. So a DW2 and L, now it's right there. Now I've performed the T-perm, right? And then revert back from our setup move. Instead of L, I'll be performing now L prime and DW2, right? So now you can see that in the buffer is orange and blue, which is this is supposed to be on this position, which is the F of edge, front of the orange sticker, right? So which means let's perform again the F setup move for the edges. So DW2 to bring it over there, L, T perm, and then L prime, revert back, and D2. There you go. Right, so the F is already solved. Now moving on to the edge of G. This is the G. So for the G, now we could have this G by bringing it in this swapping position. But how can we perform that one? We can use once again L wide, LW wide, right? So that it would be there on the bottom, but we have to put it over here by performing a D, so that we can easily make the L2, and that would be now the swapping position. So that is L, D, L2. Now let's perform a T-perm, right? After performing the T-perm, revert back our setup moves. It will become L2. Instead of D, it will become D prime. And instead of LW, it will be LW prime. And now you can see from our buffer, it's orange, white, which should come on this sticker. So this is labeled as G. So you can see it. Automatically the U will be also be fixed. Right. So once that the buffer position now in place, and we have to bring it there in the G edge, and let's perform once again the setup move L. Oops, it will be only LW, D, L2, right? T perm, LW2, D prime, LW wide prime, right? So that would be the G, right? I think other than the D has only T perm because there's no setup move. I think the next easy setup move for the edges is next is H. Why? Because it's easy to bring it over here in our swapping position by only performing L prime. It's already there, right? So you notice I'm not moving this side, right? This one, because our buffer position is on this particular side. So all are most likely doing it in D wide L, the wide L's and wide D and L2s, right? So this time from our H, only L prime, T perm, and revert back, and there you go. So you can see now from our buffer is orange and green, and it should goes to this sticker, which is the H, and automatically this green will be placed in there. I'm just only pointing it here on the top. This is orange, right? It should goes here, orange, and this is G, right? So to perform this one, it's only L prime, T, T prime, and back to L, right? So that's for H. So followed by I. So the setup move of our I is we don't have, because B is also the same on this same position, which is the buffer. So which means we don't have setup moves in I. And if that will happen, the cycle of your notation will stop on that one, and we will going to begin again to choose any unsolved edges, and we'll do that one demonstration later. So say for example, now of course since we don't have an I, we'll move on to J. So in the J, the setup move of J, we will bring how to bring it here in the swapping position in the D. So we'll bring this one over here so that we could make an L position. It will goes to D, right? So performing now the J is DW wide. So we're there now, and then make an L, and J is already there in the swapping position. So perform now a T perm, right? Revert back from DWL, so which means your L will become L prime, and your DW wide will become DW wide prime. And you can see that the buffer is now showing J, or the blue red, and it should goes to this sticker, which is this is a J, right? So let's perform again the J, DW wide, L, T perm, L prime, DW wide prime. Now it's solved, right? So next, after J is the K. So just like I said, actually there are some setup move that comes with I think a JA or a J, probably JA perm, yeah. So though I will show it to you both. Say for example the setup move of our K, suppose it's if this K is in the buffer, I'll just do it intuitively. So we'll just how to bring it here in our swap position. I can perform a D prime, right? And then I'll perform L, it will go here. I'll perform D, it will go here, and L2. Though it's quite long, this is the longest intuitive setup moves that comes with 4 notations actually. I'll show you. Using for the K, using D prime, L, W, D, L2. Now you can see that the K is now in the swapping position. I'll show you the other one which is much more shorter using JPEG. Right, once that this K is already in the swapping position, so let's perform the EPAM. Now revert back. Remember D prime LYW D L2. So I have to revert it back by L2 D prime LW prime Y and D. And now you can see from the buffer is K, which is sticker blue and white, and it should goes to this side or from this sticker because this is IJK, right? So if I will perform once again, that is D prime LW D L2. Now we can now do the T prime for swap and revert back L2 D prime I mean D prime LWY prime and D. Right, now it's solved. I can show it to you the other version for this. Say for example, I will use a JPEG. I will just use D prime and D prime and LWY prime. So D prime LWY prime and J prime LW and D. So we can see that this K should comes here. So I think this is IUR prime F prime. Okay, this is JB firm. It's a particular JB firm. Right. So K over here. Setup move is D prime LWY prime and JB firm and revert back LW and then D. Right. See it so. So similarly, if you now on the other side later and S instead of D prime, you will use a D so that we can perform same as similar to that J D prime. Okay, so let's complete only from this side. Now let's move on to L. So setup moves and how can we bring it there in our swapping position. So this is quite easy though. You can see it intuitively if I put this one here. And then now we can perform L prime so that it will come here on the swapping position. So we can perform now with the L, this one, D, W, Y prime, right? And then using L, right, it's already there, L is there, T perm, revert back our setup moves. Instead of L, it become L prime. I think I did L. Yeah, let me revert back this one though. I think this is quite wrong one. Yeah, it's L. I think it's still the same. Yeah, correct. L should come here. Yes. Let's do it once again. For L, D, W prime, Y, L prime, D prime, L, D, W, Y. Okay, that's for L. Right. Now let's move on the back here, which is M, this side. So this M, how can we bring it here in our swapping position? So we can use a wide turn so that we could bring it here at the bottom and perform a D, and it will come over this side and perform L2 and it will be there. So let's do this for the M. Setup moves of M is LW prime, right? D, L2. See, the M now is in the swapping position. So let's perform a T perm, and revert back the setup moves of our M. it would be L2 D prime LW white. So now you can see our sticker M, or the red yellow. It's in the buffer now, so it should go here at the back, because this is our notation M N O P. This is M. Okay, let's solve this one. Setup move L prime D L2 D perm, revert back L2 D prime LW, and now it's solved. So M followed by N. So N is easy also, just like H. H is just L prime, but M would be only L. Right, now you can see that the N is already in the swapping position. So just perform a T perm, right, and revert back. That is L prime. So now you can see from our buffer N, which is red green, it should goes to the sticker. Right, so performing that one is so easy. You can just perform L, right, and then T perm, and then L prime. Right, there you go. Next is for O. How can we perform the edge of O? O, if I make a wide turn, it will move over this side, right? And we can just bring it over here by D prime and L2, so that it will go to our swap position. So for the O, it would be LW prime, it will be there, D prime, it will be there at the bottom, and then L2. Now it's in the swapping position. See, without breaking our buffer here, right? Only the swapping position. So now this time, let's perform this. What letter, by the way, is this? This is M, and for O, yeah, for O. Right, so T perm, right, L2, D, and LW. Right, now you can see now from our buffer is showing red and white, or that's O. From our edge should be located from this notation, from this sticker. Right, so let's solve this one. LW prime, D prime, L2, T perm, L2, D, and LW. And now your O is already solved. Right, now moving on to P. P, just to bring it over here, we need again to do a wide turn, and we'll just bring it here, and it would be an easy L prime. So for P, so that would be DW2, right, and then L prime. Now it's already there in the swapping position. So now perform T perm, right, now revert back, that would be L and DW2. So now you can see from our buffer shows red and blue, and that red and blue, or this red particularly, should be in this sticker. So which means this is P. Now we can see it there, it's P. So setup move of P once again, it's DW2, and it will be there, and then L prime, T perm, right, L DW2, and now your P will be solved. Right, moving on to Q. Right, we will be on the left face now. The Q, sometimes Q is hard to think of how to put it here on the top, but it's only a matter of L wide turn. So we need to bring this one here, so that we could wide the D and bring it here, right, and we can easily bring it there. Right, so now for the notation of Q, or maybe somewhere here, I can bring it here, right, using L, and I'll bring it there, and then I'll bring it on the top. Right, we'll do this one. For Q, setup move LW, right, DW prime, now it's there, Q, and L. So Q now is there. So now it's already in the swapping position. We can perform a T perm, there you go, and revert back that Q setup move will be L prime, now, DW wide DW, right, and LW wide prime. Right, so check for the buffer now. It's a sticker green and yellow. It should go here, and this one is noted as Q. Right, if you have seen this one, of course we have to perform a setup move for Q. So once again, setup move of Q is LW, D prime W, and L. Right, so T perm, L prime, revert back, DW wide, and LW prime wide. Now our Q is solved. Moving on to R. Okay, R, we can easily just perform this by using again DW turns, bring it over here at the back, and we can easily make L move, right? So you can see it's quite intuitive. Only even for the first time you are working on this, it will take kind of practice, and technically I do it a bit slowly first, because sometimes I even pointing in that sticker, say for example I'm performing the R, I'm pointing here. Every time I'm moving this one, it's still there pointing in the R, right? So which means I will going to bring it up there, right? So that is DW prime and L, and now R is in the swapping position. I can perform a T perm, right? Now bring it back. It's sometimes a bit difficult. Sometimes I usually say out loud so that I know what is the last algorithm, and I can go with revert. If prime, it should know come with prime, of course, and vice versa. And that would be L. It will become L prime, and 1 minute. That is for R, no? Yes, and that would, if that is L, it will become L prime, and that is D prime W wide. It will become DW only. So now you can check our buffer. It shows green and orange. So this green should goes to this notation QRST, right? QR. So let's perform that one. The setup move for R is okay, DW. Wait. QR. Okay, DW prime wide L, right? T perm L prime DW wide, right? So now R is already solved. So moving on to S. Okay, just like I said, I can also show you later the J perm equivalent, or particularly JB perm, like the K. So, but let's do it intuitively first. For the S, we use L wide, so that S will be facing here, and DW wide, so that the S will be in front of you now, and we can easily bring it here in the swapping position using L prime. Now S is already in the swapping position. Perform T perm. Right, so let's revert back that setup moves. That would be L, DW wide prime, and L, W wide prime. And now you can see that our buffer is pointing to green and white. So this green particularly should be here in this notation, which is S, QRS, right? So now let's perform again this one by doing the L. Okay, maybe I can show you the other one using a JB perm. I will use a D, and LW wide prime, and perform JB perm, right? And revert back that one, LW wide and D prime, right? See, now the S is already solved. So you can also see that one in some other website, that they have combined notation of JPerm, particularly JA and JB, when it comes to setup moves in the edges. But you can just use typical T-perm. Okay, next is for the T. So T, we can easily bring it here by just doing a DW wide, and now this T will bring it up here by performing L prime. Now T is there in the swapping position. Just set T prime and revert back at L DW prime wide. So now you can see the buffer shows green and red, which should be in this notation on the left side, right? So it's already there in our buffer. So let's perform it once again with the T on this side, right? Setup move is DW, and L prime, T prime, L, and DW prime wide. Okay, T is fixed. Right, so we still have 4 more to go to left. Actually, this um, lower face here is quite easy because we can just move this D and we can easily bring it over in this side so that we can perform L2. Majority comes with L2 combination on this lower face. So starting on V, that would be D prime. It will come over here and then L2. And now the U will be in the swapping position. T perm, right? Revert back L2 and T. So now you can see in our buffer it shows U, and it should goes to this side. Right? This U, it should goes to this side. Right? This sticker. So which means we have to perform a D prime L2. Now in the swapping position, this U will come over here using a T prime, and you have to revert back L2 and D. Now our U is already solved. So, but for the V, we need to have double or D2 so that it will bring it over this side and perform L2. So now the V is in the swapping position. Perform T perm, right? And revert back, of course, that is L2 and D2. So now if you will see that our buffer is pointing to white blue, that should goes to this sticker UV WX, so V. So doing that, setup move D2 L2 T perm L2 D2. Now the V is solved, right? From W, we don't need double or D2, we need only a D so that it will bring it in this side. So D is over there now, L2, now at the top, T perm, revert back, L2, and D prime. So now you can see that our buffer is pointing to white and red, particularly on W notation, it should close to this one. So red will be automatically fixed because they are partner. So to perform this one, you only use D, L2, T perm, and then L2, D prime. Now the V is solved. Right. Similarly for W, we can use only D, L2. Now the W is already in the swap position. T perm, L2, and then D prime. So now you can see that our sticker is pointing to W, which is white and red. That should go on this notation sticker. So to perform that one, we need to have D, so that we can bring it in our left side and perform L2. Now we can swap this one now using a T perm, revert back L2 and D prime. So now our W is fixed. And similarly, all the sides are H, N. It's quite easy, especially also this one, which is X. So all you have to do is to perform L2. Now it's already in the swapping position. So perform a T perm, revert back to L2. So now you can see from our buffer, it's pointing now to white and green. So this white, or particularly it's X, it should be goes to this X, UVWX. So by doing that, setup move is only L2, so that this X will swap over here using a T perm. Right. Perform a revert, setup move, and there you go. So we have completed all our notation when it comes to edges. Right. So there are all 12s, right? So that's why it's quite long. So you can do that one intuitively and just practice it, so that how you will not be messing around with your buffer, particularly in this letter B. Right. Now let's move it on to corners. So the corners buffer and swapping will be different position, because the corners will be the buffer will be here in this A, and then the swapping position here in this L, right? So which means you're not supposed to move this side though, because this is already the buffer position. So we'll be doing this R white could be, or even D white still, but quite a few when it comes to quite a few set of moves actually when it comes um, to corners actually. I'll show you. But of course, starting from A, we don't have a setup move for A because it's the buffer. Similarly, we don't have N later. We don't have also Q, right? So which means we have already three no setup moves already. But this edge, this swapping position, the L, the G, and the B will be much more easy though, because this L will become only an L prime, Y perm, modified Y perm. The G would be of course different, except only for this side. Alright, now let's start. Of course, let's begin with the B. Okay, how can we bring this B over this side, especially on this swapping position? I'm pointing here in this sticker, which is the blue. Right. To do that one, the B goes to R D prime. So the B should point in this side, right? Particularly in this sticker, which is L, right? So which means now this is now the setup moves for B, and after doing the setup moves, we'll perform the modified Y perm without the F and F prime. Okay, revert back, and instead of D prime, it will be D. Instead of R, it will be R prime. So now check first. So don't look on this side now, because this is part of corner. So you can see that this B is now in, particularly yellow, blue, and red is in the buffer position of your corner. So this B, or particularly this yellow, or this piece, should go to this one, right? Should go to this one, right? So which means we need to do a swapping position for this part, because this is the B, and you can see that this yellow over here, this red will face there, and this blue will face here correctly. So to do that one, we will perform again the setup move for the B, and that is R. Okay, this one, pointing here, R D D. D prime. So it's pointing here. Perform a modified Y perm. Okay, and then revert our setup moves. Our D prime will become D. Our R will become R prime. Now the B is already solved. Right. So moving on to C, A, B, C. So this C, right. C is quite easy because we need only to bring it over here by performing F. That's it. See, we're not distracting our buffer, so we can perform this F. We don't have this problem in corner swapping. Right. Once that the F, once that the C is now in the swapping position, is facing here, right, to this right side. Now we can perform now modified Y perm, right, and then it will be the reverse will be F prime. Now check it out, and in our buffer it shows C, which is yellow, orange, blue. Yellow is what should come here, the orange here, and the blue. So which means this sticker should come over this one. So to perform this, we have to bring this one in the swapping position by using only the F and Y prime and F prime. So C is already solved. Next for D. For D is a bit confusing if you don't know how to bring this sticker B, particularly in the yellow, facing here in this side. So to do that one, you can do it intuitively. Actually, you can perform F again, F, and now D is there, and perform R prime. So it's already in the swapping position. So that is F R prime. So once that is already in the swapping position, now we can perform Y perm, right? And revert back, which is R F prime. Now check it out. Your buffer shows the sticker D, which is yellow, green, orange, and it should goes to this piece, yellow, green, orange. Right, so which means, so this is our rotation. So our buffer shows this, and we need to put this one in swapping position. Right, so performing a swapping position again, because this is a C, that is F. I mean, this is a D. I'm sorry, this is a D. F R prime, right there. Y perm, and then R F prime. Now your D is solved. So next is A, B, C, C, D, E. Right, E would be solved if you bring this E over this side in the swapping position by performing F prime and then performing a D. Now you can see that the E is pointing here in this right side. So once it's in place, we can now perform a Y perm and revert back your E setup moves by using the D prime and F. Now check it out on your buffer on the corner. It's pointing to your orange, yellow, green. So this orange, yellow, green should goes over this side. Particularly, see, orange sticker should be here in the orange sticker, which is in the front face. Automatically, this yellow and green will be fixed. Yes. So to perform that one, for the E, F prime and D, Y perm, and D prime, F. And now E is solved. Next for F. Okay, for F is a bit tedious if you don't know how to make this F facing over this side. But you will see intuitively without distracting your buffer on the corner. You can just perform F2 actually. See, if I will do F2, the F will be there, and then perform a D. Now the F is facing here on your swapping position. So this is correct. So F2 D and perform now Y perm, right? And then revert back, that is D prime F2. Right now you can see from the buffer is pointing to orange, blue, yellow. So orange, blue, yellow, particularly this piece should swap over this sticker, because this automatically orange will fit your blue and will fit your yellow here. So to do that one, setup move of our F is F2 D Y prime, right, and D prime F2. Now your F is ready solved. So moving on to G. Okay, for the G is this is not yet fixed, even though it's already there at the bottom, because this G should be faced here in this right side. So which means to perform that one, you can just perform intuitively using D. You will bring it over here first, and now you can now make an R. So now the G is facing there without disrupting your buffer. So again, that is this G, perform D and R. So now your G is in the swapping position. Perform modified Y perm and revert back. That is R prime, D prime. Now check it out now in your buffer on the corner. It's pointing on the orange. This is white and blue. This orange should goes here to G, E, F, G. Automatically the blue and white will be fitted here. So I'm only pointing to this, this one, not here, not here. So which means G, performing the E, F, G. So we use this D, D, and R, and then Y perm, right, and then R prime, D prime. Now your G is already solved. Moving on to H, this is quite easy because this H is by just moving a D. Now it's facing here on your right side on your swapping position. So now I can perform a modified Y perm and back to D prime. D prime, yes. So now you see the buffer that this orange, green, white should swap over this side. So automatically the green will be fixed also and the white. I'm only pointing to the buffer, which is the H. So to do that one, we use D, see, Y prime and D prime. Now H is already solved. Right, moving on to I. Right, this I is quite, all the I's actually are quite easy because we can easily just use R, except only for the L later. So for the I, we use only R prime. Right, see it's already there in the swapping position. Y perm and then R. So now you can see that our buffer in the corner is pointing to blue, yellow, orange, which is this blue is supposed to be in the I, which is over there. Right. So to do that one, we have to do the setup moves only R prime. And that's it. And modified Y perm and then R. Now the I is ready solved. So for the J2, we need to bring it over there for the swapping positions by performing R2. And J is already there in the place. Right. So perform modified Y perm and revert back using R2. Right, now you can see that in our buffer corner position is pointing to blue, red, and yellow. So blue, particularly which is J, should be swapped over this side. So doing that, so setup move of the J is R2, Y perm, and R2. Now J is already solved. And what about for the L? Right, so the L, no setup moves, but it's already in place. Only you need to do a Y perm. Right, so as you can see that L should be there. So no setup moves, just perform a typical modified Y perm. Right, now next for the K. K is only you need to bring it here by performing R. Right, Y perm and then R prime. So now you can see from our buffer in the corner, it's pointing to blue, white, red. Right, so this blue sticker should goes here in the K. So IJK. Right, so to do that one, we can use the setup move only by performing R, so that it would be there in our swapping position. So perform Y perm and then R prime. Right, revert back. Right, so we're now done with this side. So moving on to M. So M, we're now on the red back face now. So the M over here is more likely it's a bit difficult if you don't know how to face this M in this swapping position. But if you will do it intuitively, you can see this. I will just perform R prime. Right, M still there on the top, and F. Now it's already there in the swapping position. So again, that is M, perform R prime, and F. Now it's already there. So perform a Y perm, right, and revert back your M, which is F perm, F prime, and R. Right, now check it out. Now our swapping, our buffer is pointing to red, particularly in the red piece, and yellow and blue. It should goes here in this M sticker. Right, so to perform that M, we use R prime, F, and then Y prime, then F prime, R. Now the M will be solved. Right, moving on to N. N doesn't have a setup move. Right, and even there's no even algorithm for that. Because why? Because A is the buffer, N is a buffer, and Q is a buffer. So we don't have Q later. So we don't have N. So which means if that will happen, it will it will end up your cycle over there. If there are some more pieces of edges which are unsolved, we can choose any of those to start another cycle, right? So let's move on to O, right? For the O, to bring it over this side, normally I usually hold it here and make like this using a D prime and using R so that it will face over here. So which means that is D prime R. Now the O is already in the swapping position. I can perform now a Y perm, and to revert back that one, see I'm still holding it, perform D, right, and then R prime, up, up, up. Yeah, 1 second. Oops. Again. This is O. Okay. D prime, R, Y prime. Okay, R primes and D. Right. So now it's already solved. So for the O is D prime R for the setup moves. Okay, see. It's quite confusing when it comes to this side though. And for the P, it's quite easy. We only need to have a D prime so that to bring it over in this swapping position, this P. So perform Y perm, and instead of a D prime, revert back using D. So now you can see from our corners buffer pointing to red, blue, white, which means it should be close to the sticker. So this is now your P from your notation. Right, so which means to perform that one, that P needs to have a D prime swapping position. I mean setup moves, yes, from the swapping position, and Y perm and revert back using D. Now the P will be solved. Right, this red side is already done. Now moving on to this left side, left face, which is my green. And for the Q, we don't have set of moves, even any algorithm, because it's once again it's a buffer. So let's just skip that one and move on to R. So you know what will happen in case you come across that your swap buffer will move to your buffer position in the corners, which means you will end up now your cycle. Otherwise, if you're not yet completing all the corners, you will start creating a new cycle for that. So and you have to point once again on that new cycle of that piece. Right, now for the R, how can we bring this R in this swapping position? So in the R, we use only F2. And you see the R is already there in the swapping position. So perform Y perm and F2 to revert. So now you can see now our corner buffer is pointing to green, orange, yellow. Particularly in green, it should go to, what is this by the way? Green. Okay, here from the side. So this is QR. So this is green. Automatic, the yellow will be there and the orange will be here. Right. So to perform this R setup move, that is only an easy F2 here in the swapping position, Y perm and back F2 again. Right. So R will be solved. Moving on to S. So S is how to bring it over here. It's quite difficult if you don't see your intuition. Okay, if I will perform this one here at the back by performing a D2, you can see S now there, and we need only to perform R so that it would be in the swapping position. So that is D2R. So once that the S is already in place, perform a modified Y perm and revert back using R prime and D2. Right, now you can see now the buffer corner here in our pointing to S, which is this is green, white, orange. Green, white, orange should be move on here. Right, so which means performing now the setup move for your S is only D2 R and perform Y prime then R prime D2. Now your S will be solved. Next will be T. T is only easy by bringing here by performing a D2. C1, D1, and D2. Right, your T is now facing now in your swapping position, and it's an easy Y palm and perform back a D2. Now you can see that the corner buffer is shows green, red, white. That should goes here in this position. This is QRST. So performing T swap, once you have to do the swapping using a D2 and perform a modified Y prime and revert back to D2. So now your T is solved. Right, so we're now going to the last phase, which is UVWX. What about for the U? U is just easy F prime. Now you can see the U is now in my swapping position. Right, so perform Y prime and revert back with F. Now you can see that our corner buffer is shows sticker white, orange, green. That should goes to this position. Right, automatically this will of course be solved. And by the way, later we'll see if in case we have some corner or edges flip, and that would be another kind of notations, of course. But for this time, we don't have we're not showing it in a flip corner or either late before we have done the edges as well. Right. So now let's just perform this one for the U. U performing is only what F2. No, F prime only. So that it will shows over here. Y prime and then F. Now you can see the U is already fixed. Moving on to this one to B. So if you are hardly you can think of this V, how to bring it on this swapping position. It's quite an easy one. You just perform a D prime, right? And the V is there, but you have to perform F prime. Now you can see the V is now facing in our swapping position. So perform a Y prime and revert back that one using F and D. So now you can see in our corner it shows white sticker on top, blue and orange should come on this side. Right, so which means this is UB. So this is B. So we have only performed D prime, F prime for the swapping position, and then Y prime, and then revert back to F and D. Now you can see that your V is already solved. So two more left, or not three, yeah, two more left for the W. Right, how can we bring this W on this side? Right, we just have to bring it over this so that we can make it easily here. By performing that, your W should perform D2. Yeah, it will be here nearly in front of you and perform F prime. Now your W is now on the swapping position. So this is D2 F prime. So now perform modified Y prime. Convert back your setup moves. It will be F and D2. Now you can see now your corner buffer is pointing to the white sticker with combination of red and blue that should goes on this notation, which is a W. So that is D2 F prime, Y prime, F, and D2. Now you see the W will be solved. So last would be for the X. So X would be, we'll just bring it here so that we can make an F prime. So this would be a D, F prime. Now your X is facing now on your swapping position. Perform now the modified Y prime and revert back by F and D prime. So now you can see now the sticker facing on your buffer corner is white, which is X, along with the combination of red and green. So it should goes on this side. So we need to have a set of moves of D and F prime, right? And then perform now Y prime, revert back with F and D prime. Right. So that's it. We have completed all the setup moves in all corners and edges, and um, actually that's kind of tedious the first time. Of course, you're learning the Pochmann method. It's better to have also um, cheat paper, of course, while you are performing it using your pre-blindfolded, and at least even for the first time of solving your blindfold, it should be, of course, you should be seeing first all the rotation so that you will see how it moves, and later on we'll do some movements on the notation as well. Right, so let's have a sample solve now. This time I'll be using probably this one. Right, so either I could have uh, right, so let me just make a shuffle. So this will be let's say this would be L prime. Okay, it's L prime, U prime, R prime, F prime, 2, B prime, L prime, D, L prime, R2, L, F prime, L2, F, U2, F prime, L2, D2, F prime, D2, R2. Oops, I think I did not use the notation scramble there on the top. But anyhow, no problem. Okay, so what we will do first is we'll just keep our journal, and we'll just write the notation starting by um, solving our edges. Okay, now once again my orientation yellow on the top and orange facing right. So let's start writing our edges here. So say for example, now this is now my edge, I mean for the buffer, and this is a red and blue. So this red and blue should goes here, and this one is P, right? So this red and blue should goes here, which is P. So now I will write this one as P. Yeah, right. So let me just show it to you now. Now you can see the cycle. I will be moving on this piece, particularly on this green, because this is the continuous notation that we will write it on, or later you will eventually make a memorization and make some words on that one. Right. Once again, this is the buffer. This is red and blue, and this red and blue should goes here in the P. Right. So this is P. Right. So that's why I wrote there P. Now this time, this one, this is green and yellow. This is green and yellow. Right. So green and yellow is over here. So it should goes to Q, and this is the Q. Right. So this is Q, QRST. So Q. I will write here Q. So you can see that I'm not removing my finger on the last piece, which we're trying to memorize it. Take note at the moment, just for the record, only a pre-blindfolded solve, just to complete the Parchment method solve. So from now we have this white and green. So this white and green should should be in this one now. So which means this is X. This is X. So you can see that one. This is X. So I will write it here X. Right. Again, I'm still facing on orange, huh? So don't just rotate and misalign your cube. And now I'm pointing here. So this orange and blue should goes over this orange and blue. This piece is now F. Right. So I'll point my finger there. F. F. Right. Next this red and yellow should goes to at the back, which is here, and the notation of this one must be M. So I'll point my finger here, and I will write here M. Right, M. So that is along with the yellow on the top, of course. Now this M, or I mean this now green and red, this green and red should goes to uh, QRST over here, and this is T. I will write T, right? Now this one now still continue on moving on our cycle, and this white and red should go somewhere here at the back. White and red over here. So which means this is a W, right? So this is a W, right? Now this piece of white and orange, which means it should goes to this one. So I don't know, this one white orange should goes, yes, should goes here. This is U, so which means this is orange, white and orange. This is U from the bottom. I will write there U, right? Now of course I have to point my finger here. This orange and green should goes over here, so which means this is now H, right? This is E, F, G, H. Now this time we have yellow and blue, but I'm pointing over here, but the yellow blue should goes over here, and this is yellow and this is blue. But the problem is this is a buffer, so which means we will going to stop there the cycle. We will going to stop there the cycle, and we will not need to memorize this one. So we'll end up pressing H, because once that you end up in the buffer, you will not memorize that one, and we will look for unsolved pieces. In the moment I'm starting working on this, is I'm covering these pieces, right? This P, this Q, this X with my finger, this F, this M, right? So that we can see which pieces are not yet solved. So technically, we haven't solved yet this one, and this. I mean this one, and this one. So all of which are already covered actually, except for this piece and this piece. Now, which means what will happen now if we end up of going to the buffer, we will not take note or memorize that, but you can choose any of these two pieces unsolved. But the problem is now is these edges are basically is like a flip, right? And you can see that they are on the same position. This yellow should come here, and then the orange will come here. Similarly to this, white should come here and the blues come here. So literally, if we have these flip edges, we can just choose any of these, but it will return the cycle to itself, and it will also finish the cycle. Okay, randomly say I will point this one. This is let's say I will point this one. This is E. So which means this is E. I will write it there, and this E, this yellow sticker should goes here on the top. And once that it also comes on the same piece, it will finish the cycle. So this is E, this is C. So EC. EC. Now again, we will look for another piece unsolved, and all we have is left is this. Let's say, for example, I will point this one, actually in any of this piece. Let's say I will start here. This is K, IJK. This is K, and this K, I mean this white, will should come on this one, since it's a flip edge on the same position, will end up the cycle as well. And this is the last piece that we haven't solved yet. So which means this is a B, right? So if you will count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is odd. This is odd. So which means later we'll be using a parity a parity, which is, it will be now your RA perm, right? So since that we have noted this one already, next we will start start working on the corners, right? So we are expecting that our corners should be added as well, because this is 13. This is 13. So we'll see whatever the notation in our corner. Okay, our buffer now will start here in A. So this corner, this red, white, green should goes to here, right? Which is O, M, and O. So I'll write here O, right? And this one, which goes to yellow, green, orange, will goes to here. And this is D. And this white, red, blue will goes to W, which is U, B, W goes to here, W, right? And this orange, white, green will goes to E, F, G, H here, right? Orange, green, yes, this is H. Now this green, yellow, red, this green, yellow, red will goes to here. But the problem here, this is the buffer. So which means we will not memorize this one, which means we will now once again look for another unsolved corner to start the cycle. So which means if I will place once against my finger here, this is O, this is D, this is W, and this is H. Now which means pretty much is this one, and this one is unsolved. This one, and this one, right? So which means now we can point any unsolved for a new cycle. Say for example, I will point this this one. Let's say this is A, B, C. This is C, and this one will goes here. Right? This is not. By the way, this is not a corner flip, right? Because this orange over here, yeah, pretty much, sorry, it's a corner flip. So which means we will end up the cycle once again from this part of piece. This C, this is orange, will come here in E, and that will end the cycle. You don't need to go to blue again and show it here. So because it's in the same position. But let's see from this example, they have two different positions. This one is the same position. So we can choose any one of these actually. These two. Say for example, I will choose this randomly. And this is B. This is B. This is white, orange, blue will goes over here. White, orange, blue. Alright, so this is UB. This is B. And since we haven't finished the cycle yet, this yellow will goes over here on the top, and this is again the B, right? So which means it came back to the first cycle, which is B, and now every single corner has already been noted. So let's see how many are these. Is it odd or even? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great, so this is 9. So definitely we have an odd or parity. Alright, so let's perform these notations. And actually, as per tutorial that I have seen, they are trying to work with some words, constructing some words in each one of those notations, and so that it would be easily for them to memorize. For now, it's quite hard for me actually. I don't know. I just make this one combination, single letters at the moment. Probably in the corners is quite very few. We can easily memorize letter by letter, right? And they suggested to make construction words that would be easily for you to memorize a unstructured sentence, most likely, right? But for the record, I will not do that one. Let's just solve it one by one, right? So now let's perform now a Parchment method. We have already noted we have our edges PQ, X, F, M, T, W, U, H, E, C, K, V, and our corners are O, D, W, H, C, E, V, V, B. Right. Right. Basically for this one. Okay, now let's start working now on the on the edges. Of course, our buffer is over here. Right. I think I have some doubts on this one. I came to this is corner, by the way. I think I pointed over. There's no. Okay, this is F. Right, this is F. Right, because I remember the corners left are these two. This is C, A, B, C, and going here E, F. Yes, correct. This is B, B, and this one B. Right. Now let's perform now the first one on the edges. So let's perform the P. So setup bob of P is this one. DW wide 2, L prime, and P perm, and L DW2. So you can check first. Yes, P is solved. Now for the Q, Q is over here. LW, DW wide prime, and L, P perm, L prime, DW wide, and LW y prime. Yes, Q is fixed. Correct. Now X is over here. So L2, P perm, and L2. Yes, X now is fixed. Followed by F. Okay, F is this. F. Okay. DW2y, L, P perm, L prime, DW2y. So yes, F. Followed by M. M is this one. Right. LWY prime, D, L2, P perm, L2, D prime, LWY. Hopefully I did it correctly. Yes, this is M. Correct. This is M. Now for the T, T is just DW, and L prime, P perm, L, DW prime wide. Okay, where is the T? Yes, T is correct. So it's already solved. Yeah. T, W. So U, V, W, W is this. So this is D, L2, P perm, L2, D prime. So yes, W now is solved. Next is U. U is this one. So this is just D prime, L2, P perm, L2D. Right. So that is U. Right. Correct. That's U. Now followed by H. This one is H, E, F, G, H. So it's only L prime, P perm. This is back to L. Okay, H now is solved. Edge followed by E. Alright, so E is this one. E is this one. So which means I have to perform L wide, D prime, L2, T perm, L2, D, L wide prime. Okay, so don't you worry why it's not fixing the E, because this E and C is edge twist actually, or edge flip. So which means we have to perform now the C. The C is LW2, D, LW2, T perm, LW2, D prime, LW2. Now you can see that E and C is already fixed because this is a flip edge. Right. Take note that one only. We have to have two notation there, EC, which on the same position, except for if they have different position. Right, now followed by KB. I think this one's KB, yes. It's the same position, so that we just perform first the K. K, what is that? A, I, J, K. Okay, this K. Okay, let me do the J perm, or probably maybe I'll do a mistake there. I'll just do it intuitively. I'll do the K, D prime, L Y, L Y, L W, D, L2, D prime, L2, D prime, L Y prime, and D. Alright, okay, it's not yet fixed because it's edge flip. Let's now perform B. B is U, B, B, D2, L2. Now perform D prime, L2, and D2. Right, now you see all the edges are now fixed, and this time we have to perform now the parity, which is, because this is odd, we have to perform the parity, which is the RA permutation. Hopefully I can do this one slowly. So R U prime, R prime, prime U prime, R U R D, R prime U prime, R D prime, R prime U2, R prime U prime. So that's the challenge there. Yeah, we have to do it correctly, this parity, particularly in RA perm. Only we will perform that one if we have odd, because we have 13 and 9 there. So after done the parity, actually, of course, if you're blindfolded, you're not seeing this. It's pretty much, if you have done it correctly, all the edges will be of course, will be solved. Now let's perform now the corner. So this corner start with O. So the setup move of the O is D prime R, and you will use Y perm, modify Y perm, R prime, revert, and D, followed by D. D setup move is F, R prime, Y perm, and then R, F prime, W. Oh, by the way, W is, where's the W? U, V, W. Okay, W is here. So D2, F prime, Y perm, F, D2. Right, W is correct. And the next is H. H is only D, setup move. Yeah, because this is H, right? D, a Y prime, and D prime, right? H is now solved. Now moving on to C and E. This CE is the corner flip, and this B corner flip with the same position, and this B is also, it's in different position. It is not a corner flip. So this CE, let's perform first the C. Setup move of C is F. Okay, Y perm, and back to F prime, and this is not yet fixed because it's a flip corner. We have to complete that one by performing F. So sorry, this is not E. This is EF. This is F. For the F is using F2, D, and Y perm, D prime, F2. Now you can see now this corner is already solved. So this 2 is now pretty much left. So which means we're doing it correctly, most likely. Right, now I'll go to B. This is the B. So setup move is R, D prime, Y prime, D prime, what's D prime? D, R prime, Hopefully I'm doing it correctly. V is this, UV. Setup move of B is D prime, F prime, Y prime, F, D, and back to B. This one, hopefully I'm doing it correctly. B, this is B, R, sometimes it's quite difficult if you're looking at all the movements. Okay, this is the last one now. Setup move of B is R, D prime. Okay, Y prime and D, R prime. And yes, D2. Wow, right. We have already solved successfully a brief blindfolded using the Parchment method. Right. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much. I'm still learning how to solve and I'm still onto it. I'm not really in the um, fast cubing when it comes to blindfolding. Solve, it doesn't matter as long as I could just solve it, even it will reach 30 minutes, doesn't matter, right? So there you go. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you have learned a bit in my first ever blindfolded tutorial. And this is HansPerm. Bye bye for now.